1 ignition.
Network.
We're on the Tru-Mon show episode. I don't know what 144. Oh wow, it goes fast. It goes so fast, and that's why we must be in the here and now all the time and enjoy it. That's what I do. We're with our friend Anno also today from Germany. A good friend of Arthur. He's translating all the Love for Life material in German. So great. Big up, Anno. Big up.
Good.
Thanks for joining us. It's really appreciated. And Arthur and Fiona, of course, from Australia. How are you?
Good. Well, thank you.
Good.
Well,
tonight we're gonna go again after that subject of self-obsession, because it's huge. It's very huge, and I think we can all agree on the depth of that subject. And there's something else I would like Arthur to give me his point of views and a bit what's behind the state of mind of, because listen, there's something we use pretty much all is social media, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. But with Facebook, fake book, let's call it by its real name. With fake book, I see something that's really disturbing me, and I have something that myself, I've never been really tempted to do these things. It's to post my everyday life and my everyday selfies after selfies and stuff to really I don't know, boost my ego or stuff. So what is the behind the state of mind of someone that does that constantly? Because this is a tool. There's many tools in Babylon to enslave our mind into some madness, and I think fake book is one of them. So maybe Arthur, extend a bit on what's behind also the mechanism of this whole thing.
This is my opinion, right? This is just I thought about this before, but think of life as an ocean of water, and this ocean of water doesn't have an outside or an inside. There's nowhere where it ends. There's no beginning to it, and we through our thoughts make shapes in the water. Now this water is consciousness. So as we think, and which is as we dream, we're dreaming shapes, right? And the water, and we start to form these images in the water. Now, before this fallen state that we fell into through stereotyping and remote projection, remote control, all this stuff where thoughts are coming in our heads and we're dreaming other men's dreams, before all this happened, we would have created children, and they would be already in the ocean. Well, there's no outside. They've come from outside into the ocean. They're just in the ocean of water, of consciousness, and they're already dreaming shapes of life. And all the information of nature is what's inspiring them. But we're not defining anything for them, right? So they're in communication with everything that's alive in the water of man's consciousness, making shapes. And these shapes is defining, I don't want to use the word, it's undefining their soul. It's creating their uniqueness, originality. So in contrast to this, you have fake book and all these other things where it's duplicating this, but we're doing it through technology, still using the water of our breath, and we're making shapes to form relationships with each other, but it's all built around self-obsession. It's all defined, a universe of communication that's defined. So it's all, we've all mapped out the reality that we believe is our reality, and we're communicating, making shapes with each other through alphabet languages, through interactions, through getting together in groups, meeting up. Doesn't matter whether it's permaculture, whether it's night clubbing or rock bands, and all that stuff. We are all forming a reflection of an artificial consciousness, making shapes of our lives, because that's all we're doing. So social media is an expression of a defined world where everything has already been mapped out for us. Now, we touched on this last week, where the Freemasons came on those UFOs, those unidentified floating objects, and they mapped out the lives of the tribes of man, mapped out everything, from the way the shapes of the mountains, the trees, the creatures. That's why they had botanists and surveyors. They mapped out the way the tribes lived. They mapped out, even tried to work out the dialects of the tongues and how the tongue is doing what it's doing, right? And they would have their people travel deeper into these lands, right? Mapping everything out. But also they're mapping out the stars, they're mapping out everything, because it's all intellectual property defined, which forms the social media in the books that they recorded, which were filed in the library. So you have a whole world of social media in libraries, like Constantinople Library and all the other libraries. And these libraries were in their treasure chests they brought on their ships, and they would have added more books to the libraries of all the tribes where they visited every year. So you have all this knowledge, know the ledge, all this knowledge, right? Now this is information. Information. We're formatting the stereotypes of definitions that we create as those shapes in this fake consciousness, right? And all the Freemasons who are behind this are in tuition. They are under the tuition of other Freemasons who have initiated them into the occults, regardless of the compartmentalized system and where they may sit in that information, right? So everybody from the highest levels of Freemasonry, the high priests who dreamed these shapes, because see, they mapped out a world to get us to fall into their dream world. So we have been sucked out of the living dream of paradise, that's earth, nature, into a fake dream world, which is superimposed over nature, over reality. But because it's fantasy, it appears it's just something that's only going on inside our heads. So if we want to map out the information of this knowledge, we then have to go to nature and begin to rip the trees down, rip the mountains out, turn them into concrete, plastic, steel, you name it, and rise up the information of all that stereotyping, all that definition stuff, right? So this is actually the black magic of the occults in practice. We're in the craft of it. So Facebook is just it's the same thing. We're information. We have people putting information in our heads, and that's mapping us out. But it started in our mother's womb. So we're information inside our mother's womb, already of the life we're going to create, because that's what we're dreaming, right? And they come with emotions, all these emotions, all these feelings that a mother has been affected with, because she's in the information of what it is to be a woman, what it is to be a mother, what it is to be good, what it is to be a participant in the community or a society, you know, and on it goes. And it's a fashion statement, how she wears, we talked about like wearing heels and, you know, all the clothing. And so we have lots of different types of information on Facebook, all right? Because Facebook goes to every single in the system, every country on earth. And so you got Muslims talking to Christians, Christians to Jews, or you have little private groups of Jews or Christians or Greeks or atheists or punk rockers or Rastafarians. It doesn't matter. But everything is mapped out. And it's self-fulfilling, because if all we know is the information, we're mapping out what those who created that information for us to be. So really, Facebook is a world of robots, and we are inside the information of the robots, the drones, the slaves, carrying out the instructions, the intentions, the compelling emotions of this matrix. And that's what Facebook is. It really is. So some of us can use Facebook with the intention to connect with others, forget the information of this language and everything we're talking about, but sense. Come on, brothers, let's sense each other. So we're not in the information, and we're not mapping out those dreams and being lost into creating, because that's all we are. If you look at an ant colony, and we go to the ant colony and say, listen, guys, got a whole new software program for all of you. We want to give you information. So we want you all to forget that you are ants. We want you all to forget about your heritage, your legacy of all your ancestors. And we're going to want you to change all your descendants to come. So they're all going to be operating out of the information of this software we're going to give you, ants. And all the ants think this is really exciting, you know, really a wonderful way. So all the ants jump into the information, into the intuition, and we educate all the ants. And now all the ants are operating from that information. And so their world changes before them, right? Completely changes. And it's no longer about ants anymore. It's all about those who provide them the information and the directives of that information, right? And that directives is what the occults are all about, because the occults are directing us, right? And we go back to that marionette thing last week, right? We're all fucking dumbed down, lost and stupid, man. Just we're in formation on Facebook, and, you know.
Yeah, for some it can become a real distraction, an obsession and a distraction, and something that they if they don't do, they don't have a happy day or something. And like they find a lot of joy in sharing stuff on Facebook, and I don't know. To me, it's fake. Like these people, you would meet them in the street. Most of them, they wouldn't even look at you. Everyone's just for themselves. So it's very.
It also keeps us more and more removed from being in the moment and being in reality.
Yeah.
Because while we're at a beautiful spot in nature, so what do we do? Instead of just enjoying the beauty of that beautiful spot, we have to get our stupid phone out and take a picture of ourselves in that moment for to impress other people or for other people to see. So we lose all spontaneity of that actual moment of being in nature and maybe feeling a connection with that, because all we're concerned about is, oh, I've got to get the photo, and it's same with you see parents particularly tend to be obsessive about taking pictures of their children. If you're not careful, I'm the worst mother in the world for taking pictures. I never take any, but they, you know, everything their child is doing, they can't sit and just enjoy the experience. They've got to be filming, got to have the phone up, and it's just,
well, that's
another, yeah, but it's that other way that you know, this has all been introduced to us. It keeps us removed, keeps that separation and distraction.
So we can't actually create a living dream, because our ancestors would have created birds and rivers and insects. You know, I'm not joking. We're creating everything of reality too. We've now redirected through generations of this fall into creating a dead world of information. And we sit there revering it and worshipping it. So, look, this is pretty tough stuff for a lot of people to realize that hey, how can I say that our ancestors were created the mountains, and how our ancestors were the gods, you know, in terms of their bullshit we're being taught through the Bible and all the other stuff, that our ancestors created everything. But to me, when you realize that, you know, what I was saying, that man's the only first party to the dream of life and there isn't anything else, that we have the power, then we have that responsibility to create. So we're just in the information of dreams put in our heads, those thoughts others have told us how to think and feel. So what she's saying, you know, another way to look at it is that we don't want to be present to our true nature. We want to be present only to the nonsense of all that information and the social interaction we have by taking photos and sharing that with, whether you call it family or kids or with it. But that's, again, that's what Facebook's all about. That's what social media does.
You're right about the whole fake book thing as well, because if you think about it, more and more people are spending so much time on social media, and it is a totally fake relationship that you can have with someone on social media. It's so totally different from if that man or woman is in your life and you're seeing them face to face and you're talking to them, and after a while you start to kind of, each other's shit starts to come up and you start to find the reality of what's going underneath the fake thing. And yet more and more people, as we seem to spread ourselves more and more across the internet, most people actually have fewer and fewer relationships in their lives that are actually meaningful relationships with flesh and blood men and women in their lives. So in a way, the more everyone's going out on social media, the more isolated. At the same time, the more isolated people are becoming. And there are people who, you know, the people around them, the neighbors, they barely know anyone, and yet they have thousands and thousands of friends on Facebook. It's just, and it's fake. It's
well, that's another agenda too, because if you look at the last 50 years, well, from our experience on this land we now call Australia, we went from having relationships with a bank manager that could go on for 30 years. Our parents could have a relationship with the one man, or you can have a relationship with the policeman, and those sort of, the remains of that way have all been shattered now. So now you're basically dealing with strangers. You know, so bank managers are changed all the time. The police force people are usually changing all the time in every area of the system. So you don't have this ability to build relationships that are long-standing, because that's what forms a community, right? So, and then when you look at all the pixelation going on, all this, the gradualism of information coming at us, and the pixelation of the monitor screens, the pixelation of the ABC 1, 2, 3, and the rapidness, we're actually shutting down our ability to form bonds with reality, and bonds with the reality of a partner and with children. And so that opens up this transsexual stuff, because we're actually now being gendered. In doing this, we've been gendered in under the trans. So we get this transgendered situation. And so now you see, like, I'm not saying any of this is true or not, because I don't have the evidence yet, but this is why we're seeing so much of tennis players that are men that are playing as women, or women playing as men. We're seeing, because you look at, it's not so much that they've been reversed, whether they've been drugs from childhood or not, you know, whether they're actors and rock stars. It's that information of those images that's pixelating through the airwaves of telecommunications, and the young children who are impressionable are picking it up, right? They may not rationalize what's happening, but they're becoming normalized to a transgendered world. Now, this is all part of this disconnection that Fiona is talking about. We're becoming alienated to such a point that we are those individuals. We are so broken down that we are easy pickings. We don't have true bonds, because the self-obsession won't allow us to have those bonds. And so the pixelation of all that emotion has formed a world of broken down man who will not stand up for the uniqueness, the originality of another brother. Instead, will stand up for the pixelations of the information that forms race, culture, creed, title, standings, social media, whatever it is, right? And we are sculptured. We do it to ourselves. This is where we are seduced by our own seduction into the shapes and images of that water, where we are so absolutely lost as this individual that has no connection to reality anymore. You know, our children, when we pop them out, the system's got to get them from very young. They've got to get them through the TV, the monitor, the technology around the house. We mentioned about lawnmowers and whippersnippers and cars and motorbikes, all these weird sounds, all these, like, you look around, we've got metal and timber and plastic and glass jars, lids, and everything's unnatural. Now, this is all this invasion to break us down from connection with reality, till we are so bonded with the information of the lie.
And in French, the word individual is individu. So they tell you divide you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the thing is that we've got to the point that people actually prefer the fake to the real. So most people prefer to have friends who are nice, who they fit in with, who don't rock the boat, don't do anything disturbing, than to have someone who is really honest in their lives and really says it how it is. And that's too uncomfortable. So we're actually getting to a point where generally we prefer the fake, even if someone is someone who would actually run away when we were being threatened or troubled. We prefer them because they're nice to be around and they don't ruffle any feathers, and just the nice social scene carries on without, you know, it's like they say, you have a dinner party, you never talk about sex, politics and religion. And whereas people used to do that, people used to get together and really have rousing debates about stuff and discussions around the fireplace or around the dinner table. But now it's got to be so politically correct that, you know, all anyone can talk about is house renovations or cars or sport or something, because it's safe. You know, there's not going to be no ruffled feathers, there's going to be no emotions coming up out of that. And so it's really, we're getting more and more fake, and that's why we love fake book, because we can keep that veneer of niceness, of calmness, of we're in control, we're happy, we're fine, everything's good. Whereas I think just about every single man or woman out there actually has a cauldron bubbling inside of turmoil and discomfort and distress and trauma that's just bubbling there all the time. But we just keep plastering on more and more layers of the fakeness.
Well, we're actually pulled into forming the information, because that's what the marionette does. We're actually in the program carrying out the instruction of that information. So, you know, we're formatting our next step, our next move. So it's all self-fulfilling in everything we're doing. So, yeah, so what I agree with you. The way I'm looking at it is that the Matrix is an artificial universe of fake consciousness, which is in conflict with the living consciousness. So we have these two universes, one that's real, that's not formatted, it's not in information, it's not defined, it's undefined. And we have another one. What I'm trying to say is the cells of our body, the living conscious of our body is in reality. And reality is still operating, because the Freemasons, the occultists need reality, because they can't have us be dead and run this, because if everything's dead, they can't run this racket that they've been running. So they need us alive. They've got to keep us somehow living. So they need to have some part of reality still going to prop up, so we can be these robots with our cells still working, our heart still beating, the blood still pouring, and we're still eating, right? So you have that living consciousness, which is undefined, and then you have this fake consciousness coming in and out of our heads, this information, and you have this conflict. So they've got to make sure that the self-obsession, meaning our bond, the glue we have to the information, the intuition, is working. And that's why you go to psychiatrists. If they think you're not right, they've got to go and get you counsel, get you checked. If you're having issues about not fitting in the information, that you've got to go somewhere, even to be locked up, because things aren't right. You're going to be seen as psycho.
It's like with children, if they don't fit into school, they start drugging the child instead of saying, okay, well, maybe the school is not right for the child. No, the child's got to be squished to fit into school.
Yeah, and let's take this further. The reason why vaccinations happen is not because they want to vaccinate. They're targeting, their alchemy, these people, these occultists, they're targeting the specific kind of makeup of men and women that they've been researching and documenting. And so they do a mass flooding of vaccination, no different to, you go back to the holy books, where you know, the leader, the pharaoh, says, right, we must kill the firstborn of every family, because one of them is going to become a threat to me in the future. So we're going to kill every single firstborn, wipe them all out, so I don't have a threat in my, or to my bloodlines, to my power. So the vaccination's the same thing. They will vaccinate mass everywhere, right? Because certain ones of us have this ability to break out of the information. We're stronger than this. So they've got to cancel that out, because that's a perceived threat to them. It's a great threat to them. That's why you see some kids end up with autism. Those bright kids are probably those sort of kids that are talking right now here on this chat, because they have this ability to step outside of that information and actually question everything. They have certain characteristics. So to me, that's why they do it. This is why they do chemtrails. The chemtrail, all this GM, all this stuff they talk about geoengineering, it's all bullshit. What they're doing is they're tampering with the water of man's consciousness, this ocean of water, to corrupt it in such a way to get at all their perceived threats, because they want to maintain their power control. So we're all in the information carrying out this fake reality, this fake world. And any resistance down the line must be dealt with, so they don't have that problem, right? You've got to go back through all the history, you know, when everything was covert, or so overt, right? And on all those tribes of man that were invaded, it doesn't matter which one won the war, but everyone would be underneath the power of those who were the victors, right? Eventually, in an overt situation, you're going to have men and women realize, well, we're slaves, we're underneath somebody else here. And they rise up and you have fights. And there's losses on all sides. And in these losses, these occultists, they've got family, children, bloodlines. And you look at the French Revolution, you would have seen some of this devastation to them, yet alone to the civilians and the peasants and all that, what they call today, right? So I think you'll find that the occultists, they work very hard from their experiences, from the documentation of all these tactics, because everything about this one bloodline family and mapping everything out is power and control over all of us. They live for the dream of power and control. It doesn't matter what the seeds of that information and intuition is put into their heads, right? They make them do it, because they're also fucking robot. Every single Freemason, as high up as you go, are lost too. They're also doing this, but they may believe that they have an inherent right to be gods over the rest of us, that they are there to rule all of us because we're all lost. They need to be our shepherds, because we as sheep don't know who we are, and we must be protected and guided. So they'll have all kinds of fake justifications and manipulations going on inside their thinking. Now, that filtering all the way back down. The nutcases, these psychopaths, right? They will do vaccinations to mass to find those threats and get rid of them. They'll chemtrail everything to find those threats and get rid of them, because nothing else can happen. The truth is, the chemtrails are doing nothing else. All those who are not affected won't be affected. All those who have a certain, from alchemy, a certain chemical makeup that makes up a kind of a man who can challenge this fake reality and cause disturbance and cause upheavals and problems, make people question and think what's going on, like we're doing with us, all the Life for Life work 11 years, right? Yeah. This is their threat. This is their greatest worry, because they don't want people to step outside of that information. They don't want people to be not under the intuition of their cults. So I think you'll find this is why it's so intense, and why the effort under a covert system is so all-consuming, and why they've created social media, why they've created telecommunications. Look, the truth is, telecommunication is just black magic. There isn't really anything happening. The same thing with it may appear that things are happening, but that's all the information of all the marionettes who push the 1 and 0 digital data across the fiber optic cables. It's not doing it by itself. It's the man who builds the computers that generate all the 1 and 0s and all the digital data that becomes the processing of all that information through whatever means, airways, Wi-Fi. We're creating it. We're creating it all. Without us, none of this is happening. So it's all black magic. It's all an illusion. We think it's real. We think we have a sense of belonging to it, because the self-obsession ties us to that fake consciousness, that fake universe. And we'll sit around and talk as the language of that universe. We will live in the customs and the cultures of that universe. We will continue mapping out everything to our children to enter that universe. But this universe is just a fantasy, man. It's just make believe. Nothing's happening. It's just, we just got some fucking nutcases here who have worked out another way to control us, because the overt methods were killing too many of their own family and causing too much grief in their world. So they've had to come up with another way. And so everything gradually went to covert. And now all this saturation of covert, which is technology, social media, it's every area, even the roads, all the houses that are numbered, the supermarkets, and everything's stacked and styled with numbers and 1s and 0s. And it's information of that fake universe to keep us busy, keep us distracted, caught up in it. And if we are, underneath us, they're controlling the system of that, and they have the power, right? Well, basically, you can go to the background. They control the background that projects the foreground. So if the past if they control the past, we project that information to the future, which means we're forever trapped in this fake universe, this fake matrix that we've crafted of our own dreaming. That to me is all I think what's happening here. So don't worry about. Look, can I just finish this? There's no difference between vaccination and Facebook. It's exactly the same fucking intention. The same outcome is derived. No, exactly the same. No difference when you look at it like that.
I agree. No, another thing I think that many of us have been convinced by, even myself at one point, I was a bit convinced by that I had to love myself before I love others. And that's real self-obsession right there, because you don't need to love yourself before. If you wait to love yourself to love others, we're always going to be stuck in that mess. Like, we don't need, for unconditional love is who we are. It's what the essence of life. So we don't, and even it's just a word. Love is just a word after all. But I mean, the idea that you have to love yourself before you love others, we will always be stuck where we are.
Well, that's magic. You think of the sun shining, right? And the sun thinks, I want to own those rays for self. These are my love, my life. So all the rays of the sun that would generate life and just spread out freely, undefined, now come back into the information of that I must think of self. So where the sun once was is now darkness. There's no light there anymore. It's gone. Now that's what happens to us. That's what we're doing. That's what we do when we think about self. See, that love's already there, but we doubt that love. So we think we have to be that love. And that's the same as health. When we start doubting health,
well, we look for that love.
Yeah, we'll start looking for that help. And if you start looking for the help, you're now lost in the matrix of that lie. It's the same as looking for love, Ephesians said. Yeah. Look, our ancestors were in paradise. They had everything, and yet they fell. How did that happen? How is that possible? And then ever since, why is it we can't go anywhere to experience a natural way of paradise? You know, where from one side to the other side, whether we're talking about an island like Australia, that size, and you can walk across the whole of Australia and all you're walking through is paradise, right? Or whether you're walking for a small island, you know, like Tasmania, walk across it. Where is this paradise? Where are the brothers and sisters living this way, right? We're not seeing it. So something has happened. So it's not that straightforward to think that, you know, we just think, oh, I love myself. If I love, I'll start loving everything and start thinking words of love. Mate, that's masturbation to me. I just think that's just a load of shit. We're actually not loving it all, because all the time we're saying it, we're consumers. We go to the shops, we're buying the system, we buy the information of food from the fruit shop, from the grocery stores. We're buying technology, and we pay for the water board to provide us or the local council the water into the home and electricity. You know, so we're utterly screwed up, and we don't see it. So why you got to step back and use scrutiny? You've got to be able to step right back and see the bigger picture. Hence vaccination, hence chemtrails, hence every war and chaos. They don't want us to be able to start holding a bigger dream, because really who we are, the DNA of man, is the whole of the dream of life. We're all carrying the legacy, the inheritance of that DNA. Forget the scientific word of DNA. We're talking about the legacy of our ability to hold the whole of the dream of life, because everything that exists of reality is in our DNA. Everything from the insects, the birds, the wind, it's all in our DNA, but most of it has gone dormant. We've let it go to sleep because the information of our fantasy of imagining all these thoughts in our heads that are all intuition, all this crap, has made us fall from paradise, has made us drift away. So somehow in paradise, our ancestors would have had suggestions put into their heads, pictures put into their head by someone amongst them, and they didn't realize who was doing it to them. And they fell and fell and fell and fell and fell, gradually, slowly. And this, it's like that little thing we're talking about, like the vortex that starts to spiral, right? That one little dot. Now that's that I, and we get sucked into it, and we get sucked into this vortex, you know, and we're fucking gone, man. It's just spinning in our heads. So that's the sun shutting down its rays. That's man falling. So I think you'll find that somewhere in all of this, Freemasons know, the occultists know, they do not want us to be able to hold a bigger dream. Because if we can hold the bigger dream, then we know who we are also. And we can perceive what's wrong amongst us today and begin to address it, right? Meaning harm to you is harm to me. Harm to Fiona is harm to me. Harm to anyone is harm to this man. Why would I harm the bird? Why would we have to, you know, that consciousness, we would go in and say, no, stop. But we don't do that with Facebook, do we? Most of the time, we talk about, oh, we must go and do a petition. We'll use the system to stop elephants having their tusks taken for the ivory, you know, or they'll come up with another campaign. But the system still keeps rolling along, just keeps rolling along. Nothing changes, or everyone's still consumers. Everyone's still plugged in, right? So you've got to get your head around this. The system is about not being able to hold a bigger dream of reality. That's what vaccinations do. That's what social media does. Keep your, you know, information. Just keep coming at you. So you can't hold it. Now, one other thing quickly. When we have people come and stay with us here, and this is how we learnt this, we say to them, look, you've got to learn to go, we'll get in the garden. You've got to learn how to work, hold a seed, and hold the bigger picture of that plant. Hold the bigger picture of the soil. Work with that. Don't, if any other thoughts come in your head that comes from that fake universe, don't wrestle with it. Don't fight it. Just recognize, laugh, go, hi, thanks for your offer, but I'm focusing on this. And get back to the garden, think, and expand your consciousness, hold the bigger picture. Why are you working with that seed? Why are you planting? What are you creating? What are you dreaming for here? And holding that dream. Now, the more we learn to do this, the more we let go. Because we're no longer feeding, we're no longer reacting, we're not in the emotion. We have no emotional attachments, any outcomes with this satanic occultic seduction. So we need to be of reality, in reality, creating reality, and we're holding that dream, and we expand out the garden. And this is why the garden is so important. We're expanding our consciousness, expanding the size of the garden within what you can do for now, so you can hold a bigger picture. And you learn to let go and let go and let go of all that information, all the alphabet thoughts. You don't let them seduce you, right? This is so critically important, guys. This is massive. Massive beyond all our work. You've got to hold the big dream of reality and don't fight anything that's not part of it. Allow to be there. Just ignore it. Allow it to be there. Let it fade away. Don't feed it. Don't feed it, right? Don't react. That's what Facebook does. React to this campaign. React. Social media, react. That keeps the pixelations going, keeps the information highway going, and you can't hold the picture because you've introduced chaos and confusion to the dream you say you hold of your life. You can't hold your life, right? So if you can't hold a dream, a bigger dream, you can't even hold your own life. And I'm talking about selfish, my life. You can't even hold the dream. It's impossible. You're gone, and there's no soul there.
And so we keep living, I was thinking, we were talking about the campaigns, we keep living our lives as if we've got cancer, so we keep trying to cure the cancer, but then we keep doing everything that continues the cancer. And that's what the whole world of the system is like. Everyone's trying to put band-aids on all these causes that, you know, you could list pages and pages and pages of causes, but in the meantime we all go about our daily lives, which are the whole problem, why these causes exist in the first place. So we're just running round and round in circles trying to make things better, while at the same time we keep causing all the harm.
Well, in fact, the experiences we've had, because we're guinea pigs, right? Look, everything Fiona and I have been doing, well, I'm really the culprit because I've dragged Fiona into, and she willingly wants to be a guinea pig, really, but I've dragged her in. I'm the culprit behind all this. But the point is that we willingly, for example, when we had the bank situation, we were waking up and we were going through all the chaos of, you know, everything we worked for 20 years being stolen from us. So all the idea of security, you know, retirement, the freedom, all those things that was pitched to us, and we were in the information of all this shit, right, was being taken. And there was no community immunity. And we got to realize something, the penny dropped for me, and I must have dropped for her in another way, but whatever happened, we got to realize we were individuals. We were lambs to the slaughter. There was no community immunity because we ourselves weren't part of that community immunity. We were also no different than everyone else around us who were just thinking for self. I've got to live for me. I've got to live for my mortgage, my house. I've got to keep the roof over my head. I've got to get my kids through school. It goes on. That self-obsession comes in so many different ways, right? And we want to know, what's going on here? You know, we're still waking up to this. This is 2005, you know. We're still going, my God, what's reality? What, you know, we didn't break the peace. We didn't injure anyone. We didn't commit a crime. We didn't harm anyone, nothing. And yet everything we worked for was being stolen. So what was really concerning me, where's our security? Where's our freedom? All this labor I put in for what? For who? It was all being taken, right? What are we? Are we scum? Are we shit? Are we crap? So the point is that we started talking to people, opening our mouths, you know, and you know, letting people know there's something wrong. But a lot of people say, oh, it should be right, mate. No worries, mate. They had the evidence. They could see the evidence of the fraud. The bank, the judges will sort this out. Everything will be fixed, right? But as we're going through the court process, this is not happening. And when we researched and we found all these similar types of cases and multiples of hundreds, all unlosable cases, the evidence so clear of the switch and the fraud, switching of contracts, we saw all these unlosable cases all losing. So we realized there was something wrong. There's a bigger thing going on here that the education system did not prepare us for. This was not something that we knew anything about, which is we fell into it. We knew that there was corruption, but we didn't know it would be that bad, that it would actually come into our own lives and destroy us, right? if we're targeted. So when you go the next stage of this, we said, well, okay, we've got to start showing to all our friends who thought, no, the corruption's not that bad. So we'll prove it to you another way. So we got a fine. We both got fined for not voting, $25 for not voting, $65 for not changing the address of the dog when we moved from where we were in one part of Sydney out here, because the family home was used for holiday rentals down the coast. So 3 years later, they've spent somewhere between $250,000. We had like 16 police coming, detectives, sheriffs, tow trucks for fucking $25 and $65. And the effort they put in, and we had the website, and we're putting this all on the internet too, so they would be concerned about us because we're putting all this out here. Now, we've never injured anyone, never committed a crime, never stolen anything, nothing. And yet we're seen like, my God, we must be bad people. Look at all these police here, sheriffs and bailiffs. And they want to take their family car because they need to sell it to get their $25 and $65 back, plus some and whatever, few $1,000s for extra fines and inconveniences, right? Now, we documented this. This is all on the Law for Life website, State Debt Recovery Office versus Fiona Cristian. You can see all this. You find all the links. The point was, we got to realize there's a much bigger picture here that we don't know about. We have to be able to step back and start seeing the bigger picture and work out what's going on. How is this working? Who's behind it? You know, all that sort of stuff. So if you can't hold the dream of life that comes through your senses, which is reality, nature, which we've all got, it's already, we can't awaken what's been put to sleep in our DNA. Because who we are is God, the true consciousness, but not something to adorn as God, walking around as a goddess or a God, notice me, look, I'm a goddess, and, you know, all that bullshit that's all around us today too. I don't mean that. I'm talking about undefined responsibility, undefined creation, undefined magnificence in whatever way we choose to express that, right? Meaning, wake up from this deep sleep that we put to sleep, that we did, that our mother started putting us to sleep in the womb, and our father supported that putting us to sleep. We've got to wake up. So you've got to use your sense. You cannot use the alphabet thoughts in your head, because alphabet thoughts have no sense in it. It's a fantasy. We are imagining consciousness. We're imagining we are there. We're imagining our life is there, our children are there. But this fake stereotyping, this fake definition is not who we are. But when you use your senses and you sense, when you smell and you see and you hear reality, nature, the living, our brothers and sisters, and all of this too, you can begin to hold a bigger dream. The more you can hold it, you got to hold it in focus and expand it.
If we're so obsessed by ourselves, so much self-obsession, why don't we think much more for ourselves? Like, why we don't think for ourselves if we're so obsessed?
We do think for ourselves.
We are.
We think for ourselves, for our fake persona. That's what we
okay.
Everybody on Facebook's already thinking for themselves. That's why they're on social media. Everyone thinks for themselves. That's why the water's coming from the water board into their home. Everybody's thinking for themselves. That's why they go to the shops and buy all their food. Everyone thinks that's why they go to the elections and vote, right? Everyone thinks that's why the women can sit around a coffee shop and talk about whatever they want to talk about while they're having a cafe latte or a decaf cafe latte or a hot chocolate, whatever they want, right? Everybody's already thinking for self because it's a self-fucking obsession. It's fake. It's fake. And we give our energy to it, so we're amplifying the universe of this fake consciousness. and in doing it, we're supporting Joe Blow up the road being kidnapped because the police broke into his home because someone reported that he was bashing his wife or his children when nothing with that was really happening. And that family home got destroyed by the lying of those who lied about that Joe Blow. And we do nothing because we're too busy in our self-obsession worrying about the football game is coming on in half an hour and
too scared.
Too scared. You know, look, it's staggering. We are totally self-obsessed. You can. Yeah. It's the only way to be in this fake matrix. Self-obsession is God. The all-seeing eye, it's God. You're totally, see, the reality is we don't own anything. We don't own a home. We don't own money. We own nothing because we already got it all. But the self-obsession confuses us. So too much of our DNA is asleep. because the self-obsession is what's keeping us asleep. So we don't wake up. We're not waking up.
Yeah,
right?
but we seems to prefer known hells to unknown heaven. Why is that too?
Because we doubt who we are. And when we doubt who we are, we fear of what's coming tomorrow. And if we fear what's coming tomorrow, we will fight for what we have now to protect that obsession against what's coming as a perceived threat. So we'll worry about, I've got to have enough money in the bank account, so make sure that I have everything I need for tomorrow and next week and for our retirement and all that. We must, look, this problem, if you just contemplate on just that, you can look at every area of the system, you'll see how this works. It's the same worrying. It is really, we're in the information that creates the future that was projected from the past because someone's already defined all that information for us. We're projecting it and we step into it. So we basically, we are fashioning the clothing of the future, and we enter into the wardrobe, the boutiques of our obsession to wear that fashion statement. That's Rastafarianism for you, brother. That's rock and roll. This is being a doctor or a dentist. Bless the hearts, everybody. Everyone is doing good things, but in reality, if we had not been corrupted, we would not have bad teeth. We would not have bodies the way our bodies are today, because everything would be so alive. Every cell of us would be so alive through us holding the bigger dream of reality, which is our living soul, that the undefinedness of man is the mountain. It's everything. It's because of this inculcation, the stereotyping of self-obsession, that we shut down. We are the sun entering the darkness. We're in the dark ages of our manifestation. We're creating it. We're not in the light. This illuminated light is a fake projection of fantasy. The true light is almost gone to absolute darkness. When that last glimmer of us turns off, there will be no sunlight. We will enter darkness, and we have created it, right? So every man who's dreaming because they read the Bible and the future, everything was forecast of the prophecies, they're creating that. Everyone who believes in Nostradamus and everyone who believes in, the global warming and the worrying about economic crisis, they're creating it too. And everyone who's hoarding and, going to the shops to stockpile because they're worried about, because they're patriots and what do you call those people? Preppers, all these, we talk to these preppers sometimes, they're Christian patriots, some of them, over the years since Done Love for Life. And they built themselves a fortress and they're inside everything. They've got everything. They've got their guns. And I say to them sometimes, they're inside, are you free? Where's your freedom? You're worrying about what's going to come over that wall. And you locked yourself inside a wall. That's the darkness too. It's when you wake up, there's no death. And when you have no death, you're not scared of anything anymore. You don't need to hoard and hold on to tomorrow. You're so free. You're free that the peace that comes over us is so profound. I've experienced this. I can't tell you the story of this, but I went to sleep for 2 weeks. 5 years ago, I think it was. Was it 2009? No,
11.
2011. Whenever it happened, I slept for 2 weeks. I had no idea. When I woke up, Fiona she can talk about this. When I finally woke up from this 2 week sleep, I had to relearn to walk because I didn't know how to balance anymore. But all my senses were so heightened. When I was starting to learn to walk, I could read signs from kilometers away with fine print. I could zoom in and read the fine print. I could listen to two people walking from a couple of kilometers away. I could zoom in and listen to them talking about whatever they're talking about. And I'm going, shit, I don't want this responsibility. I don't want any of this. And I'm going, fuck, this is too much, And whatever happened, I shut it down because if word got out and I had an ego trip, and I said, my God, look, I can look inside your body and see X-ray vision. Literally, I could see everything inside your body because the senses were alive. The heightened sensitivity of who we are is present to us. So something happened in the 2 week sleep. Whether I dreamt for this because I want more of that truth or whatever happened, or whether it's, I don't know. I don't know what happened. All I know is that I chose not to have that because I don't want to have a line of people from the front door going all the way for hundreds of kilometers because everyone wants to come and see me because I can help them. I didn't want that responsibility. Because that's what would have happened if word got out. If the other thing is that whatever we've done is only because we want to know the truth. We didn't want it because we wanted power. That's why we don't charge for everything we do. You don't have to come to Love for Life and pay money. If you want to gift money because you want to inspire and support what we're doing, great. That's not a subscription. We're not commercializing something for the glory of our egos, you know? So what I'm trying to get at is that the potential of what we are is so incredible that you have to have literally a near-death experience to describe what I experienced with that 2-week sleep. Right now, and that was just one of many other types of experiences that the life of this man has had. So we are capable of the extraordinary. So even though I had to relearn to walk and get my balance back, I got to see that the senses, because whatever had shut me down was released. I had no obsession. I was so calm. So people who came and visited, they're sitting there going, "You are so calm, man. You're so peaceful. You're so happy and content." And I said, "I know. I was like a baby. I was like a little baby." Until I allowed whatever to come back, all my shit, all my trauma started coming back, and because you've got to. We're not rescued. No one's going to come and rescue us from this, man. But it gave me an insight into just how deeply profound our senses, the truth of who we are, is. So it's in the letting go. When we can let go, when we sell everything we got for a kingdom dream, when we choose our brothers and sisters, we want to create a kingdom dream and build this paradise, right? Without the self-obsession, without bringing the distractions into holding the bigger dream. Most people don't know how to hold it. They will bring their obsession and destroy the dream they hold, and they'll blame someone else. This is what we've experienced together in doing all this Love for Life work all these years. We have gained so much insight into the concerns and what plagues our brothers and sisters and what's plagued us. We're not better than anybody. We're not claiming that we have anything in that way. But what we have got to offer is the passion and the inspiration and the determination to get out of this fucking mess in this life and fuck everything else up. Right? Yeah. And with no leaders, no followers, no sheep. So that's why we say, freedom, truth, peace, joy, abundance, do no harm, no loss of uniqueness, originality, no slaves and rulers. Everybody wants it. We've worked out how to make that happen now. But are you prepared to hold a big dream and don't let the self-obsession come in to corrupt a relationship you have with brothers who you want to build that with again? Because that's how tribes were, undefined. Are you prepared to go that far? Now, if we do, we have to let go of all that self-obsession, all the chatter, the ghetto blaster inside our heads that brings in our concern for self, because that's why people run. We've had people come and stay, live here, doesn't matter how many months, whatever. You watch them run. Some left peacefully, but it's amazing the trauma of this self-obsession, because the dream of their heart that tells them, yes, I want to have a community, that gets destroyed so quickly, man. And they'll use me mainly because I'm so passionate, so out there and so confronting. They'll think I'm the reason why they have to run. They can't cope with me. Or vice versa. It could be just the way Fiona looked. It could be just the way she bent over.
I can just imagine you. Yeah.
But what I'm getting at though, we're on the cutting edge of dealing with this trauma. We want to know how it works. Why is it like this? Now, we're in a rental property, man. We've got no security. We've got nothing. We could be given an eviction notice next week, or they could decide they want to sell the property. And we're building sheds right now. We could build more. We just got to do what we've got right now and not be concerned about all these things and hold a beautiful dream, a bigger dream, and allow it all to play out. As long as we don't panic, as long as we don't introduce concerns of tomorrow that bring in fear and doubt and all that stuff into it. If we do that, we will corrupt the bigger dream that we hold. Now, that's why men leave women and women leave men, because they can't hold the dream of why they came together in the first instance. Because now there's something they're not getting what they wanted from that. It's going to come from this man with that bigger penis, or it's going to come from this woman who just happens to have who can orgasm 3 times more than my wife can. Look, I know this sounds ridiculous. We are so self-obsessed that we'll fucking destroy everything we commit to and watch it all fall apart, and then we wonder why. Why are we in this mess, and why do we need the system to provide order to this chaos?
Yeah, I think if you spoke to many older men and women, and if they were honest, they would be able to show you how constantly throughout their lives they've had dreams and then they've sabotaged them. They've had a dream, they've sabotaged it, had a dream, sabotaged it, had a dream, sabotaged it. And this is a chronic chronic problem that most people are guilty of. And I mean, and the ones who generally are the stars of the system, you know, who do really well in the system, are often those who actually do have that ability to hold a dream. It's just their dream has been a system dream, so that's why they've been able to create a business empire or become really well known at something, because they've had that ability to work really hard while holding that dream. It's just unfortunate that that passion and direction they've had has all been system based rather than putting it to something else. But this sabotage pattern, dream sabotage is chronic, and most people spend their lives flipping from one dream to the next because they haven't got that tenacity to see it through. So they have the dream, they start all enthusiastic, and then it gets too hard, it gets too difficult, and they haven't got that passion to push through. So then something else, flip to this, flip to that, flip to this, flip to that, and they spend their lives just zipping from one thing to another.
We were there too. I guess wrong. We have to be vigilant when those effects come upon us and go, okay, I'm not focusing on that. Get back to what we're doing. And what we're doing is holding the bigger dream. And the more we hold the bigger dream, the more we grow and change, and the more we awaken what was put to sleep. Because we put ourselves to sleep. No one else can put us to sleep. All the vaccinations will not affect you if you know who you are. All the chemtrails will not affect you if you know who you are. And when I say no, we're not talking about self here. We're talking about a man who's undefined, who senses reality, because there's no self in that. When you know who you are, you don't think freedom, because you already are. When you know who you already are that unconditional love. You don't have to think it, because you're being it. You're living it. You are the embodiment of it. So it's when we think these things and we carry out these things that we feed the self-obsession. Right, because it's defined. That's why the occults are so powerful, and how our ancestors fell from paradise. We haven't been able to seem to work out something that's so obviously simple, yet so difficultly complex in getting back. Why is something so present to us? Nature's so magnificent. We can go to the cliff and watch the waterfalls and just sit there in amazement and go, how magnificent. Watch the rising of the sun or the sunset, or watching a flock of birds, or look, you can sit there and just sit under a tree and just be blown away by its peace. And yet there's a world of nature doing what it's doing as that peace we experience, which is different from I want peace, and you go towards the definition of peace and you're feeding it. That you're feeding that self-obsession, because it's the obsession of peace that defines the peace, that gets us falling from the peace. We don't have any peace when we're like that.
And could the fear of death also amplify that self-obsession even more?
Yes, huge. Huge, because we don't know who we are. Because see, your senses, when you know who you are already sensory reality. You're smelling everything. So why would you be in fear of already what you are? See, when you're in your senses, you can commune with the snake. The snake's not a threat to us. The crocodile won't be a threat to us. No white-pointed shark will be a threat to us. When you're in your senses, I'm not talking about inside, outside the universe in that way. I'm talking about when you are, and you brought this out, all the doubt, all the uncertainty, all that other stuff that corrupts the bigger dream is not present. So if we're not corrupted, then all of nature around us will not act corruptedly either. So this is why we get attacked by these man-eaters, because we tell them to attack us, because we're impure, we're insincere, we're fallen, we're corrupted. Nature's job is to maintain perfection. So everything of nature in what it does is not about dog-eat-dog survival of the fittest. It's culling and culling, doing what it's done. There's no death in nature. Nothing of nature is experiencing death. You see the cheetahs will chase a flock of whatever they're going to eat, but then they'll sit together at the waterfall all together, drinking and relaxing for days. Now, this is no joke. This is what happens. So the purpose of the dream of life, the way we perceive it, is to maintain the perfection of the dream of life and don't allow anything less than that to enter the bigger picture. So instinctively, the crocodile, the white-pointed shark, the snakes, everything is not looking at us as something to eat. They're sensing our impure thoughts. They're sensing the way we doubt who we are and the emotion, because all the emotion of fear, anger, everything that's not natural to us, they pick up and go, oh, this doesn't belong in this paradise. We must remove it. So they come and kill you and take you. They're not doing it because we're bad. They sense there's something wrong, and they go and it's not meant instinctively. So that's why they do it. So if nature didn't do this, then the whole of the dream of life, its big picture, will collapse too. Which means that if we can't hold the big dream as man, because our job is to hold that dream, because our ancestors hold that dream, because without them there wouldn't be this dream. We're the only one that can hold it. And be custodians. That's why we're custodian stewards.
That's what I said the other day. We are life, and we still exist, as far as I'm concerned. So why not arise and shine as a people?
So you got to watch out for the self-obsession that slips in, that forms this fake universe that causes nature to do what nature does. Now, the earthquakes we created because of our impure thoughts, of our obsession, right? Because, you know, when you talk about like the sun shutting down to black, the earthquake is that process of the sun shutting down. That man's inability to hold the dream of life is not present anymore. So if we're only present to the darkness of our self-obsession, and our head is spinning with social media and all that ABC 1, 2, 3 thoughts that keep us lost in a state of delusion and illusion and all that, that is the hurricanes, that is the cyclones, that is the earthquakes, that is the lava, that is the cold winds, that is all these things, because we're creating it. Because we haven't been able to hold the big dream anymore. We gave it up. And the more we introduce, this is what Fee was touching on, the more we introduce corruption to the dream, we're destroying the dream. So the legacy that was passed down through the generation has been corrupted. So gradually, more and more of the corruption is taking over man's ability to hold the dream, until we're going to produce a generation can't hold it. When that happens, there will be no earth as we know it anymore. We will be obliterated, and we have done it. You see, the Freemasons haven't woken up yet to the reality of this fact that their intentions to do what they do is so impure that unless they can step back and see what they're doing, that they are responsible for the annihilation. That's why all across Earth, you'll see the remains of their ancient world, which is only roughly 1,200 years ago, sunrises and sunsets. That was when the firmament collapsed, but it was also when the supposed man was put on the cross, and Rome and Babylon and all that stuff started collapsing. You got to remember the recorded history. They recorded everything, rewrote everything, and you're tapping into their books and their history. And it's all Freemasons who rewrote everything, about everything and everything, right? That's another subject to get into here. But the point is that if we forget who we are, then everything that we are will no longer exist. It will collapse before our very eyes. We are seeing this right now. Right now. We're at the cutting edge of annihilation. And the Freemasons, with all their ideas of bringing us so close to extermination by destroying the oceans and destroying the Amazons and destroying community and all that, they want to take us to the extreme and then bring the truth back about everything, but do it in such a way that they have power and control over all of us. That's like, for an example, here in Australia, everybody who has a land titles deed, it'll say on their titles deed they are a tenant. There's no fee simple, meaning that you have purchased a piece of land that you have inherited forever and you can pass on to your children, right? You will always be a tenant, meaning everybody on the land of Australia, in spite of whether you have a mortgage or not, no matter what equity you have, whether you put into trust foundations, whatever kind of capital planning you do, you don't own it, right? So they're bringing everyone back so close to the truth. But they want to set it up so it's controlled by legalized corruption, legalized law. That's what the legal law system is, to keep it so the foundations of the federation of the one world government, the new world order system with all the good guys will be built from the foundations where everything was taken from everyone. And now it's going to be given back to everyone, but with the order of these Freemasons administrating the land we're all going to be fucking standing on. But the education must continue, the inculcation. The Freemasons don't get it. Even trying to pull that off is annihilation to the dream of life. Everything will be obliterated again. Just let me finish. Sorry, apologies, I'm going on, but I want to get these things across. Ancient Egypt, ancient Greece, Incas, Mayas, Aztecs, ancient China, what's under all the oceans and seas of the Pacific, Indian Oceans, Atlantic and Mediterranean and all that stuff. are the remains of this one world attempt that they tried to pull off last time. It all went at the same time. All went at the same time, all across Earth. And these nutcases, if they don't pull out and change and get back to reality, it's going to happen again. Only this time it'll be far worse, in spite of what they think they can get away with pulling this off. The impure intention behind the lie itself, you know, like if you get the picture of a wolf dressed as a sheep, right? And they come across as a nice guy and they're going to say all the right words and mean all the right things, right? But their intention is that they're part of the hierarchies of the high levels of the occults, and they want to bring in a one world government to protect us all from destroying Earth and provide us with a political process under a one world language, a one world government, a one world law, a one world military, whatever you want. All with good intentions, supposedly, right? That impurity, that lie is, look, all the nuclear weapons in existence today, whether they do work as nuclear bombs or not, doesn't matter. Let's imagine if they can all go off together, this lie is 1,000 times more lethal, a million times more lethal than all the bombs all going off at the same time. Far more dangerous, because we have the power to create darkness, meaning we will go to sleep and let the whole of the dream of life collapse, right? We can't prop up fantasy, because all we're doing in the Matrix is we're raising up the dead, the fantasy that we call cities and skyscrapers and that, and we call it books and ABC 1 to 3. We are putting all the energy, we're the slaves to all this, and we bow down and worship this fake universe. We're raising it all up out of the water, out of this shapes in the oceans of this consciousness that we're dreaming, right? This shape that we will create is absolute annihilation, because we're all asleep. We're gone. And if we do that, which is in terms of their time codes, the calendars that they've created, I don't see this more than a few years now. So we need to wake up. Many of us got to wake up and hold this dream, not as an obsession. Oh, I've got to hold this dream because the world's coming to an end. You can't do that either, man, because that's another fucking piece of crap. You've got to know who you are and hold that dream and live that life, that root your life, and be free and peaceful about it. And you don't own any of it, and you create abundance. So we have a garden here, you know, and we're creating abundance because we want to hold, we're committed to holding the dream, not for any other reason. And keep developing these skills, these abilities that have been put dormant. And don't let corruption come into our dreams. Don't let confusion come into our dream. Don't let the ego, don't let all the emotional, the trauma come in and corrupt it. Look, most people come here because they want something from us. No joke, right? Because they are still lost in the confusion. They want to go the next step, but they're not brave enough yet. And they think they come and see us, I'm going to be brave enough to go to the next step. I'm going to do the amount. I'm going to let it all go. Look, we have to be smart. That we don't. It's like that thing about Kate of Gaia and the whole thing of the name and all this stuff that came up when Kate of Gaia first contacted us around 2009. And because we've been putting out the stuff about the name, and name is the mark of the beast, and all that stuff was evolving out of 2005 to 2008, roughly. And we really started pushing. We started putting videos up about 2011. Now, the Freemasons will come and try and hijack, right? Because that's why we will lead every revolution against us. They must become the expert think tanks. They must become the people who have an opinion about these things, and they're the ones who build a flock around that opinion. That stereotyping. They must control it because they've got to control the outcomes. They don't want people like us to influence people. So they've got to try and hijack what we do. So Kate of Gaia came along with the whole name stuff to try to hijack what we've been putting out. And we laugh about it. And we think, you're fucking idiots. Do you think we're concerned whether you hijack it or not? It's not about that. The point is, if we don't know who we are, we act in the most stupid ways. And we start playing mind games with the obvious, as if we need to kidnap information so that we can control the future and let those like us fade away and be forgotten about and die. And you know, through the generations, it's all gone and their power's still in control, right? Because this is how they think. They really do. They do it through gradualism, through generations. They'll do this. But they don't realize that the collective effort of all of them, that in energy that they're creating of that impurity, is annihilation and devastation. right? So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what truth we bring out. Even if someone now, look, another classic was that only recently we're starting to see movies coming out about the E-Go, and you've seen the symbol E-Go. We've been putting E-Go out for a few years now, and now we're seeing the E-Go come out, and people are talking about the E-Go, but it's got a different slant on it, and it leads something that connects with the system, where the E-Go we talk about is all about walking away from the system and has no place with it. Now, the same thing with the name with Kata Gaia. Kata Gaia is trying to manipulate people and has been for like 3 or 4 years. And we're trying to warn people, don't get influenced by this, because if you drop the name, where is the support you're going to have to keep you going? Because you still need food. You need shelter. You need to be able to drink. You know, if you just drop everything, you're going to start becoming a bank robber. You're going to start breaking people's home and stealing. You're going to go live in the wilderness and just live off gum leaves and whatever you can scratch from the ground. Right? So we're saying to people, look, yes, we've got to drop everything, but you've got to be smart about this. We've got to work together in larger groups. Now we say, sell up everything, put it into a pool together with the rest of us, and we collectively, those who can handle that responsibility, work with that to recreate a paradise where all of this goes, but what's still there is the paradise of the dream that we hold. Right? So everything's collapsed, but we're still moving on. But if you suddenly drop the name, for example, and you're battling and everyone else is dropping the name, you're creating chaos everywhere, because no one's using their brains to be smart to gradually get out quick as possible, where they're creating more problems. So what they're doing through Kata Gaia, start more fires, get more conflict with the authorities, drag the authorities into your life, bring all kinds of people in for stupid reasons, just because we think, I don't need the name. Bullshit. Unless you've got a community of people to support you, you can't drop it. Well, you can, but you're going to have to take on the responsibilities that are going to come with it, which are massive. I've dropped the name, but I got Fiona with all the contracts. I got my children in the system with all the contracts. I have a lot of other people. Like Hannah's been here for 6 years. She's carrying the name. I don't carry the name. That doesn't mean that I've won because I dropped the name. Hey, look at me. I have a name for 6 years. And I've got all these suckers around me, and they're all slaving away because I can benefit from the fucking name. It's not about any of this. We're just showing that we can do things gradually as quick as we can to get away from this system. So one in, one out. She's in, I'm out, and we work together and we play this game. So when the David Botcher with the Auto Templar Oriental shit started coming out, we actually welcomed it. We didn't tell him this. I antagonized him, in fact, because we want them to come out. We want them to come after us because it's bringing them more and more out into the open. Because these people who are behind this stuff, all these people involved in the deeper levels of the occults, they've got to wake up. They're our brothers. I don't see David as my enemy. I embrace David. He's my brother. But he's gone. He's gone. So we have to set the example and keep challenging them, which to them may be like a red rag to a bull. And they may think they've got to come after it. Guess what are we going to do to get it after? We've got to lock him up. We've got to get him out of the way. He's on the internet. He's talking. He's threatening everything. This is seriously how they think, these people. So we're not sitting there going, oh my God, you know, look at us. We're all these amazing, you know, like one guy wrote to us a couple of days ago on YouTube with the part 2 video that we did, John. And he says to us, I don't get it. Should be tens of thousands of you. Not saying that word, he's implying there should be tens of thousands of you watching these videos. There's only 200 or 300 on there, right? Why is this? I said, you don't realize the censorship and how it works. You don't realize the way look, the information highway of that we will lead every revolution against us is the Max Eigen, is the Kata Gaia, is the Jordan Maxwell, is the David I, is who? Sasha Stone, is Mark Passio, and there's thousands of them, and they all have a little app because this is how they censor out, so we can't flood in because they're all controlled, right? So you don't see much. So someone like you who's not controlled, you can allow that to spread, and vice versa. So don't think that you know, because we don't have many numbers showing on that we're not having an influence. It's just that on the surface it appears. Now, if you look at our Facebook wall, the Facebook numbers just keep dropping every day. It's been doing this for 3.5 years since they started it. It used to be 5,500 for like 5 years. And then it started dropping down below the 5,000 to 4,900 and something. And then we got a backlog of thousands or whatever it was before. And so we keep selecting new friends, and then we just, you'll see the drop in it. This is a game to work with doubt in our heads. It's a game to try to mess with us to try and get us self-obsessed. We don't care about the numbers. I'm only interested in reaching people, anyone, anywhere. So I don't have an emotional attachment to the outcomes of reaching people. I'm just committed to shine and rise, like you talk about, and get the light. Same as Fee. We just hold that dream. Don't corrupt the dream. Don't worry about what they're doing. Another one is YouTube. Years ago, we got contacted by people in America who did this experiment. They would go onto someone's YouTube channel, 100 different people, and click on one video and see how many click counters would show up, right? And they contacted us and said, we tried it on one of your videos and only made 2 click counts or something like that. And I said, yeah, I know, I get that. They've messed with the click counters, right? We knew this back in 2009. Now, we had another guy from the military industrial complex who read the Ringing Cedars book because he found it through our website, who then wrote to us after he read the books and was getting into our work, and he was praising and thanking him because he left the military industrial complex as a software engineer. He left it all. But he wanted to say, look, I still have this software. And it shows your website sitting around 179,000 something of 30-something million websites. So you're still up above the 1%. You're in the 1% of traffic. You might be a little dog biting their ankles of the big ones, but you're causing them a fucking lot of trouble, right? So don't think that you guys aren't doing so. You are doing something. There's no doubt about it. And we knew this. He didn't need to tell us this, right? He gave us some software that we could download to put up on Facebook. And this software showed us how many people were on the Facebook wall. We only had the other Cristian one back then. And there were tens of thousands, man. Tens of thousands. Right? That stopped within a couple of days. We couldn't see it anymore. They made sure that would not work. So the intelligence behind social media, the intelligence behind YouTube and many others, don't think that these people are doing everything they possibly can not to do it to control us, and we somehow have this freedom by using social media. Look, we can talk to each other freely, or we can communicate the truth freely. It's bullshit, right? It's bullshit. So don't be surprised. There's so much going down. We laugh when we watch the numbers, and the Facebook will drop every day. You watch it. It goes back up like that, then it drops down. You know, every now and then we get someone writes to us, why did you remove this? We didn't remove it. We had nothing to do with it. We only block someone who's a nuisance, who's really trying to, there's reasons, controversy, they're creating controversy, or they're lying, trying to create mischief. So if you haven't got that intention to participate and do something, you can argue and debate things, but don't start making things personal. Well, we'll block them, Yeah. So, you know what I'm saying? Watch out, because the thing is that we have friends who own homes in many countries. We have friends who are sitting on land. We say to them, why are you sitting on all this? This is going back to 2007 now. Sell it. If we knew what we knew when we had everything we had, which was $1.2 million, whatever it was, if we knew what we knew as we're waking up, we would have sold that beach house, family home, put it into land and begun this. We would have done it. But we had to learn the hard way. We had to learn fucking everything that was fucked and work it out. So we could then map it out and map it out to everybody, not to be self-obsessed to this mapping out, which people do. Let me tell you something else. We've had people come here and be the full embodiment of the Love for Life insights, but there's no man there. They're just a mimic, a copy, because they mapped it all out, because we mapped it out for them. So watch out for the self-obsession, because it comes in so many different ways. Are you prepared to let go of what you got and find those brothers and sisters and build a real relationship with brothers and sisters using the system to get out of the system in this life? Are you prepared to do this? Because otherwise, there's no point listening in on what we're talking about, because you'll just turn off after and go back to doing everything you do in the system. In spite of your sentiments for freedom and for consciousness, you will love the stereotyping and the definitions, all that more, and the self-obsession of all that, than the truth of being it and holding the dream. So who can you trust? Who can you trust? Who amongst us can we trust that we can hold each other's hands, not as an emotional attachment? I said, right, we have to end this nightmare. We're doing it together to destroy each other together, holding hands. Now we turn around the other way. Let's all hold hands and walk away as a mass exodus out of all of this, with the intention of that bigger picture, and let everything else behind us fall away. We recompost it, so that everything of the system will be recycled and composted, and all that remains are children brought up in these kingdoms with no definitions in their head, because we've not educated them.
And we don't need to be our brother's keeper also.
Exactly. Because that's obsession too.
That's obsession too. No?
But we got to protect each other. If harm to you means we've got to confront and stop them from harming you, because people have free will, right? So we have to intercede, not in fear. I say, hey man, you know, it's like that thing that's going on in America with that issue of the bringing the pipes or whatever it is through lands of Indian lands, and this whole battle. I forgot the name of the movement, but there's a lot of stuff going down about this, right?
Dakota pipeline or something.
Yeah, whatever it is. I have not hardly looked into it because we were focusing on. But that's the kind of stuff that's going down. You've got to be able to rise up and say no. Look, the thing is, even with a kingdom, if there's 200 or 300 of us or 500 or 50 of us, it's not about fear of death. We must all huddle and become this tight, close-knit group in fear. We must do everything shining radiantly out into everybody's lives. And everything we're doing is a gift of abundance in many different ways, so that people can realize we're not a cult, we're not a sect, we're not a religion, we're not following anyone. We're just responsible custodians of co-creators of the dream of life, and we share that freely without any attachments. So we share all the abundance and give it. We share whatever, because people will come because they have problems that need helping them to let go of all the distortion in their dreaming, so they can hold a bigger picture and be that too. So we've got to be able to hold. There's so many facets to this, but at its core, it's simple. No self-obsession.
Yeah, there's another part of the self-obsession I want to touch, and it's about the health, but especially about veganism, about becoming vegan. You know, that makes me laugh all the time when people go for veganism, and especially when they say it's for my health. I do that for my health, to have a better health, to be more healthy. Like, I have nothing about being healthy. I think it's the way of life, you ask me, but I think there's a natural way of eating. There's no vegan or this kind of diet or that other kind of diet. There should just be a normal way to eat off the trees, and here you go. And the veggies and stuff, and grow food. And hold on, I just want to add something else. Maybe you can go on after, and about growing food. Is it possible that the plant feel your vibration, you know what I mean, and they grow strong? Because I have tomato plant here in my yard that are growing gigantic, and it's out of control now, and I don't know what's going on. I think they are picking up my vibes when I walk around them. I talk to them and I sing, and you know, so I don't know, it could there be, because everything is working.
You do know, bro. You do know, you're doing it.
I think so. I think there's got to be something, because I see them growing gigantic. There's 6 of them are like more than going to 8 foot tall now. So it's like 8 feet tall. I'm freaking out here. So I'm like, there must be picking up my vibration. That's what I told my wife. I said, the tomato plant are growing strong because I'm growing strong. So I think
exactly. And you know the truth of that. You're already doing it and being it. That's how it is.
Yeah, the whole vegan thing, I mean, I am vegan, I guess you'd say, but it is just a stereotype as well. You know, it is one of those stereotypes that's becoming really fashionable and really you know, my daughter's a vegan and her friends are vegan, and it's certainly a stereotype. However, I will say that we stopped eating meat because of the do no harm thing.
Hold on.
Even though we both
Hold on, this is my point, because I finished my reflection. Why becoming vegan? Because it's a satanic ritual. After all, eating meat is a satanic ritual. You are performing it, so just becoming conscious of that. So that was my reflection. It's not about becoming more healthy or vegan or this label or this other one. It's about the satanic ritual.
I want to say one thing.
Also,
the system stereotyping vegan is the system that comes with veganism. The system stereotyping Christianity brings the system with Christianity. The system stereotyping of freedom brings the system of freedom as the freedom we live, right? So if you don't see the bigger picture, you bring the system into everything. So veganism has been institutionalized, culturalized, politicalized, socialized, because it is the system of veganism. It's the system of freedom. It's the system of consciousness, you see? That's the fucking psyops at practice.
I mean, that's where we have to come back to, is the whole do no harm thing. Because as I was saying, as soon as we clicked with this do no harm thing, that's when it was like, what can I do instantly in my life to stop some of the harm I do? So obviously there's some things we can't stop straight away. unless we just go out into the wilderness. But eating meat was one of the first things straight away. I was like, I don't have to do that anymore. And it stopped like instantly. And it wasn't hard for us. We'd both been vegetarian and stuff at different times in our lives, but it was that, okay, that's something straight away. I don't want to eat animals anymore. I don't want to be responsible for killing animals. And the same why we don't eat dairy as well. They're treated horribly, those animals. I mean, maybe some people, if they had a cow in the back garden and they wanted some of the milk or something, maybe that's different. I don't know. But it was more about the do no harm than the health, because as we spoke last week, we can use health as an excuse for our not waking up, or as, again, we can stereotype that we have to have this pure body to wake up, etc. But we don't. We can wake up in whatever condition we're in physically. So yes, it's become that stereotype, and it will be the new world order. Veganism, look how heavily it's being promoted. A few years ago, it was still a really sort of offbeat little thing, and now it's huge. It's massive. Look all over YouTube, all over everything. There's green smoothies, there's juices, there's veganism, there's everything. That will be the new world order. It really will.
It's part of it,
yeah, that way of eating and stuff. Whereas, as you said, it should be eating with no self-obsession, as in you just wander into the garden and your body just tells you, oh, I'd like some of that now, and you eat that and you carry on, and without thinking about it. It's not something you have to think about. Whereas it's the whole veganism and health has been trapped into this obsession that it just becomes, you look all over YouTube, you've got people talking about what I eat for breakfast, how I make this food, what good recipe this is, what this does for my body. And that's just self-obsession.
What they're saying is, this is what I eat as a fucking slave. This is how I dream as a fucking slave. This is how I emotionally perform as a fucking slave. We're just fucking slaves, broken down and lost. And that is the distortion we've introduced to a dream that we have collapsed. We can't hold it anymore. So the stereotyping, the definitions, all the shit, we bring the system into veganism. And that's what's happening. So everyone's talking about veganism, but they're fucking slaves because they've got contracts left, right, and center. And that's the power of the occults over everybody. They don't want us to forget that. And we're here to say, walk away from all this stuff. You can still be vegan without the system. And in fact, when you return to nature, you wouldn't want to harm an animal because you're harming you. Now, how far it goes, I don't know. Maybe it goes all the way back to breatharianism, because maybe our ancestors got everything they needed from the air we breathe, because it had all the pollen. It had all the richness of life in the air. And as we breathed the air, it was life, because you can imagine all of creation comes out of that. And the creator would have created everything like that. That is our original man. Now, there's no beginning to this. I don't think this is lineal terms, but it's absurd to think that if you look again, it's the system that comes with Christianity. It's the system that comes with Judaism or Buddhism, Mohammedism, right? It's the system that comes with New Age. It's the system that comes with veganism. It's the system that comes with economics and everything else. It's the system's the problem, because it's the system that it comes out of education. We are defined as vegan. We're defined as a conscious man. We're defined. So if you remove the education of all that definition from the womb, we will already be the do no harm vegan, if you want to look at it, maybe breatharian. We won't know until we recreate these kingdoms and we fix this problem and get rid of the system out. We've got to get rid of it in this life and then allow everything else to unfold, because we don't know our capacity. I mean, we're living in a house here with no heating for 8 years now, 9 years, whatever it is. We still rug up. We've got blankets on us now on our laps, right? But at night time, which -5, and we just put a blanket over, we sit here for whatever, and then go to bed. Now, we have friends that come in, they're not used to this, so we've got to think about, oh, I've got to rug them up, I've got to rug them up. But it could be that when we change everything, the weather changes, the climate changes. And I'm not talking about doubting this. We truly change everything because we change. The weather is because of our intention. The weather is your tomatoes growing big. You're experiencing the of your own dreaming, and you don't have any definition in that area, so you can sing freely and happily, and everything's dancing to the song of life that you are. So, and you're not introducing any doubt to that. You obviously have no doubt about it. So it's nothing to be amazed about or not amazed. You are God, man, but not, but you're not self-centered. You're not obsessed in the garden. So if you can do that, imagine what you can do in all areas of your life without that self-obsession coming in. Just carry on. And that means that some part of you is holding the bigger picture. And the tomatoes are dancing with that song that you're holding because you're singing it. You're the custodian.
I could feel it. I'm telling you, I could feel it. I was beside them the other day. I'm like, hey, why is it growing so gigantic? That thing, it didn't say it. They were saying like 5-6 feet. Now it's the 8 feet. It's higher than my fence. I had to cut the cedar edge because they're growing with the cedar, and now so I had to cut it. It's like, okay, I'll take action.
That's where it's got to go, because otherwise, if we have all that other stuff, we're in that, we get ourselves in the pettiness of a lack of abundance, where we have shortfalls of things. What's those other words that we use about this?
Scarcity.
Scarcity, yeah. You find scarcity. Scarcity of love, scarcity of freedom, scarcity of consciousness, scarcity of happiness and joy, scarcity of community. It goes on because we're creating it. We don't feel deserving. I've had some good friends here, and that scarcity in their thinking, it shows in how they act in the garden. And you see it, and you go, or you get the opposite. Not the opposite, another extreme. They don't feel they're rewarding of being truly happy. They must bring some kind of drama into everything they do. There must be something that must get them angry. You know, it's because they don't know how else to be. You know, that deforms their relationship with reality, because they've been bonded with the emotion from so young, and they practice the trauma of it. They need to create drama and conflict all the time. And if you go and try and help them press their buttons, they think that we're the ones that are upsetting them and causing all the problems. When they've been walking around with this shit, man, and they're just asleep. They don't see it. They don't sense it. So, you know, self-obsession is like there's a hallway coming out in 1,000 different ways, like rays of sunlight all around us. There's so many different ways it works. And unless we can step back and hold the bigger picture so we can see how it's working, we will be still walking down these corridors of self-obsession thinking that we're not self-obsessed, right? Because we're still in the stereotyping. We're educated that behavior. The behavior we perform with that stereotype is educated to us. It was set as an example by mum and dad and brothers, sisters. And look, when you're watching Rastafarianism, you get stereotyped and you begin to perform the rituals of Rastafarianism or rock and roll, right? Or Christendom. It doesn't matter. We're all impressionable. But they are the corridors of stereotyping. They're not our dreams. They're not our unique dreams. So when you're in the garden and you're able to find that part of you, it's like me when I had that 2-week sleep. I was free, totally free. And when again, I'm not talking I and self. I'm just talking this bullshit language to communicate something. There was no self there. Selfless. It was like a child. So when you're in the garden, there may be that innocence, that part of you is working, and you have no doubt. So your passion, your rays are radiating, and you're not introducing anything else to inhibit that in your way. So
because you haven't learned some fear about that I will not be able to grow tomato plants, or tomato plants won't work, or because this is what we do with so many things that we set about. We have all these stories inside our head that tell us why it won't work and why we can't do it and what's going to go wrong along the way, and therefore that's what we start introducing into that dream of that. So but yet we nearly always have some areas where we are free, that things work. We don't stop it, we don't inhibit it, and we go, wow, look what I can do. But we've all got then these other areas that we have all these checks and balances because we have the fear and the doubt about who we are and what we can do in those areas. So we introduce all this, and thus we create it, and we stop everything. I mean, it's like going back to the scarcity thing. We've had not really much money for many years now, and the blessing of that, I shouldn't use that word, should I? The great thing about that is that we have actually learned to not have no fear of that at all. And even though we've had many times where it's like, oh, no money, never mind.
Hey, that was self-obsession.
It's like don't focus on it. And we've always found the money we've needed when we've needed it for what we really need, not for lots of distractions and luxuries, but for when we've needed stuff. Guess what? The money always appears somewhere. And we've really learned that, becoming that obsessive about, oh, we can't buy this because of that. We can't buy this. We got to be careful there. It doesn't help. You just go, okay, we need this. We'll buy it. And we find the money, and then we find the money somewhere else. And it's a real freedom, because I know that fear of not having money to put away from that is huge in nearly everyone. And that's what Arthur's referring to when he's talking about how everyone holds on to what they own. They hold on to their houses. We all know that if all of us who really dream of freedom, if we all put all our resources together, we'd be able to do something magnificent. But that fear of, but then what happens if it falls apart? And what happens if I can't make it work? You see, we do it with that default in our head that it might not work, that it might fall apart, that we might have issues with the people. And that's what makes it not work, because we bring that into us. Instead of diving fully in and going, right, I'm going to put everything in. People, we've seen it, people sit, they love the idea. Yeah, it's a great idea, but they sit back and observe and watch, rather than diving fully into the experience of what can I do if I put all of my life energy into this dream, which would therefore make it grow abundantly. They've got to keep back a little bit of themselves and do their bit, put energy in, but always just withholding that little bit just in case. And that stops it growing. It's
a real sickness, because the whole system is built out of that behavior. We've seen it here, because when we went from 4,000 a week income to, as a general average over 20 years, to Fiona Centrelink parenting payments and living off that, and empty cupboards on and off for the first couple of years, because we had, she let me slip out of the system. And then, we're holding a dream, or we see life as a gift. So we're going to hold a dream of brothers and sisters will come and gift and support. And this is how the Love Life Dream worked. All the insights came from this, or everything that was needed, whether it comes from the ability to sit and contemplate and just working it out through argument and scrutiny, whatever. But it was all, everything we needed became available if we had no self-obsession, we had no doubt about it. So when you want to create a real kingdom, people come to it because they're free of their self-obsession. They're prepared to gift what they have of their life, everything for it, because that's how the sun shines. That's how reality works. And in doing it, everything of that reality is maintained too, because all of nature protects the uniqueness and originality of everything too, and to sustain the perfection of everything. So we as a man, we don't have a culling in that way. We don't experience, like the cheetah's chasing down its prey and culling. We don't get culled. We don't have that. But that's been introduced to us to put us into fear and to doubt, so that we would get into that scarcity, of love and unconditional love and all that crap, right? Because at the moment with the New Age, everyone talks about unconditional love and they're walking around with unconditional love, but they don't know how to actually be it themselves. They're still thinking it, talking about it, but they're actually not being it. So when you want to create a real remedy, it's a letting go and be present. So you wake up and you go to bed with a shovel in your hand, seeds in your hands, creatures in your hands, brothers and sisters in your hands, and you carry that weight, that responsibility. And in doing it day by day, we're withdrawing from the system. We're letting it go, letting it drop. And we're recycling everything that's dropping. We're not just ignoring it all. We're not leaving all the mess that we created while we were asleep. We're going to recycle all that and bring that paradise back, so we can recreate food forests, and that's what we should be doing. So we're saying 30, 40, 50, 60 of us selflessly doing it without anything attached emotionally. So it's not about my garden, what's in it for me anymore. It's about what I'm prepared to do, and just do it with nothing as a reward. Totally free of it, because we've already got it. We've already got it, because we are. The more we are truly free in that letting go, we have everything. We really have everything.
I think once you find abundance inside, you can find abundance outside. And that's what's happening in my garden, because I'm so abundant on the inside, so full of love, so, enjoying life, that probably the plant sense it, and must be other thing also around that sense it, but that I'm not there yet. I know the plant, I can sense that the plant sense me, but the rest I have to discover. Life is
Hey Hannah, what are you doing, man? Just what are you doing? Have you got a garden started? Where are you up to now?
Yeah, I'm working on an acre with some friends and have some plants here in the garden at the house where I live currently. Yeah.
What's your situation? Are you renting, or you just you're in a family home, or?
No. I work with a friend in a restaurant, and we live here. Have a nice garden here, and just started this 1 year ago. Yeah, and I only help here for the benefit of the project. Yeah.
Cool. Are you working in the restaurant, you're saying? Are you a business owner in the restaurant, or are you a partner in the restaurant, or are you just working for someone's restaurant?
I started this restaurant with a friend. And
is it vegan?
Huh? It is a vegan restaurant, yeah.
Are you running around chopping animals and selling the animals as cooked food?
No.
So I just don't know much about your background, you know. I don't...
Yo.
Cool.
Yeah, and I'm just looking to go forward, yeah. So.
Yeah, because it's really interesting that I try and translate your German translations of the Love for Life stuff we do, and you know, it's really admirable that you want to do that, you know, to try and communicate these insights into German, and you know, others are now doing it with Spanish, and you know, I think French, yes, yeah, with Sophia with French, and you know, and but you know, like we had Daniela, who's probably listening right now, and she came here. She's in Nuremberg, in Heidelberg, and you know, to see what she's doing. You know, I know you're communicating with her, but I'd be interested to see what you guys, all of you, whatever happens in Germany, because you know, you can see that you're going to need cash flow. You need some people who could, like what we've done. You need someone completely out, who's working in the garden and doing what they're doing, and others supporting it until you can get a second person freed up, so that everyone's working and paying to make sure that those two people don't have to be burdened. And then eventually 3, and then 4, and then 5, until there's a whole bloody community.
Yeah, it's like, and this is where the selflessness comes into it, that some people have to be prepared to keep going in the system, while those who are out of the system keep building up the infrastructure, so that one day they too can come and join in. So it has to be this seesaw. And again, it is selfless, because some people have to still go to work and make the money and bring that back, while others are in the garden and doing that sort of work, or building sleeping quarters or whatever needed. But that's the balance of how it can work, and that gradually, as the infrastructure and sustainability of the land grows, more people can step out and be part of it, and that's how the community grows stronger and stronger. And that's where the lack of self-obsession comes in, is that if you're not careful, you get everyone going, but I want to be the one who gets out, I want to be the one who, you know, who's drops the name and gets into it, whereas you know, that's not the way. I always think I'll probably be the last one with the name, because I'll probably be holding a contract of some sort or something like that. But you got to not worry about that, because things are being prepared for your, you know, for the day that you can do that as well. So
very important. That gradualism, it's when you do drop out. I mean, like I'm pulled all over the place, you know. Besides this recent illness, whatever it is that's happened to my body, you know, we're still working long hours. We're pulled in many different directions. So it's not like as if suddenly we got this amazing freedom because we dropped all the contract. It's not. In fact, we're carrying more of the burden. But are we prepared to carry that burden? Because we're no longer passing the buck. We're no longer being ignorant of our blind obsession as a slave in the system, where we need all the white collars brainwashed in a production line. You know, imagine conveyor belts, and we're putting babies on the conveyor belts through the production line, and they're getting processed to become these white collars and blue collars, who become the bank tellers and the people who are the taxi drivers. You know, everybody's doing their job in the system. And from that, we tap in to get our food, and we get our peace, and we get our joy, and we get our, you know, whatever it is we need, right? So now, when you're letting go, you're not relying on any of this anymore. But now you've got to carry it, and you got to carry it, and you got to grow it, and hold it. Now, people with that self-obsession want to do it will never make it happen, because they'll destroy it. It only lasts for a short burst, and then it falls apart. They'll just run and fall apart very quick.
I think the thing is as well, when often the conception of freedom is that I can do whatever I want when I want. And so we've had that with people here saying, but we're talking about things that have to be done, and maybe some of those jobs are a bit boring or a bit mundane, or they've already done it 3 days in a row. But the point is, it's not, if you hold that, it's like when you have a child. Now, changing nappies isn't the most amazing thing in the world, but you've still got to change the nappies, and you do it because you love the dream of that child, and you want that child to be healthy, to be comfortable, to not have rashes all over its body, and to be clean, etc. So you keep changing the nappies. The same thing when if you're striving for your freedom and you're setting up a situation of freedom, you're still going to have times that you have to do what you don't actually feel like doing, whether it's turning the compost or, you know, whatever it is, mowing the lawn or whatever it is. There's still things you have to do. And that's the misconception where people, I think, fall down, and it becomes their dreams get sabotaged again because they have the dream, but they don't like the hard work that goes with the dream. Whereas when we have our children, most parents, they will always do the hard work that goes with the dream of that child because they love their child. The same thing has to happen with our kingdoms, and this we will all have to work really hard, but we're working hard because one day we're going to have it set up that our food forest is there. We just walk out, and then we really get the freedom to flow with our inspiration of what we feel inspired to do when we jump out of our rest in the morning.
Exactly.
But and that's where a lot of people fall down, I think, is the, oh, I want to be free. That means I do what I want when I want. But that doesn't work.
But you know, the self-obsession, also what you said when you said we care about our children and all kinds of stuff, and we change the diaper. We care a lot about the outside of even our own bodies, the outside, the appearance and everything, but also for our children. But we care very little for the inside of the children, for empowering them and telling them truth and stuff. And, you know, so I think we're very, very inverted in many ways, and that due to the self-obsession.
Well, I was thinking about that when you were talking about love earlier, and how we love our children by giving them lollies, candies. We love our children by giving them iPods and mobile phones. We love our children by sending them to school. We love our children by exposing them to all sorts of harmful rays and toxicities and all that sort of stuff. And that's how we love our children, you know.
Anything processed is toxic.
Oh, here, darling, have a donut. It's fun.
See, the thing is, when you're creating a kingdom, you've got to be able to allow nature to do it for us. So we won't have diapers. We'll have wolves and dogs licking the bottoms of our children. So when they poo, the dog is already licking and eating it, and lick and do a better job of cleaning up than the diaper. So, and I know it sounds crazy. We gave up the wolf and the bear and whatever for diapers. We gave up our ability to communicate for mobile phones. You know, we gave our ability to journey with nature for motor cars and motorbikes and all that stuff. We gave up our ability to enjoy elation for wine and marijuana and all these other things that are not natural. You know, all these things that are unnaturally fermented, that are or unnaturally processed. We have to walk away from all of this because it is toxic and distortion to our consciousness. So and that's all part of our deep sleep, because we'll keep doing it. We'll keep doing these things, whether it's eating meat, whether it's eating cooked food, eating veganism, system consciousness. We're still asleep. Who we are isn't being it, because we're shut down. So that's the scam. That's the whole scam of the occults and how this trick works on us. So I guess, you know, that if we want out of this mess, how much responsibility are we prepared to take on? Now, when you hold the bigger picture and you want to manage it within what you can do, you'll say, okay, I start now and I'll deal with it one day at a time, and I'm just all going to work on letting go while I'm holding the dream. You're holding the garden. You don't let the garden collapse. You don't run away. You don't let go. And this is why I've had a lot of friends who've come and stayed here and worked with us. And I say, if you can't make it work inside this little 1/8 of an acre garden here, make it work here powerfully, it wouldn't matter how many thousands of acres you get, you will not make it work.
That's what I think also.
So we keep drumming. I keep drumming in. People who watch these videos who stayed here, I've been drumming it into everyone. You've got to make it work. If you can't make it work at a small scale and hold the dream and be totally selfless and not be affected by self-obsession, there is no land of the size of Earth will fix it, because you will be the fallen descendants of those ancestors who fell from paradise, and to continue perpetuating the self-obsession of all this defined stereotyping that's mapped out, because everything is mapped out. The mapping out of emotion is someone else's defined reality that you're wearing as that marionette, and you perform the jealousy, you perform the anger, you perform the greed and the envy, you perform the denial, look, every single emotion is defined.
You can think of conquering the world or your dream, maybe not the world, conquering yourself, just that you'll be mighty, but you can't, if you can't master the little stuff, you have to master the little stuff before you master the big stuff. So that's the same thing. You small piece of garden, if you master that, you're going to master anything.
Meaning, can you take on the full responsibility and manage that? Not
people,
run.
Some people can't even clean their house, can't even clean their car, and they're thinking about living their dreams. Like, what is that? Completely inverted.
The way it is today, it's my garden. I grow my food forests in the garden, but I'm in the system. It's my community, but I bring the system education, and all our children will be educated to continue the defined eco community of tomorrow. See, and so the same problem continues. And we're stereotyping everybody, so the uniqueness and originality of man is not allowed to rise and shine naturally as the DNA who we are. We're still dormant, still asleep, still shut down. So, if you want, the thing is this, if you still want the system, you will have everything defined for you, for us. If we truly want freedom, there is no system there for that freedom to be, because it's already there. So that means there's a walking away from the system of that freedom that you hold as the dream that you are, that you live for, right? It's the same with consciousness. You're not bringing the system into the consciousness of what you claim is your consciousness. So you have to be very vigilant and discerning to look at what you're thinking, to see if the system is there. Because if it is, you've got a fucking lie in your head and it's messing with you. And you've got to say, right, fuck off, out of my head, out.
Yeah.
Without a war, and say, right, how do I hold the freedom without the system in it? How do I hold the conscious without the system in it? How do I hold a relationship without the system in it? How do I hold the man that we are without the system defining us? And that's where it starts. So if you can't make it work on the smallest things and make that powerful, there is no rising and shining happening. There is no expansion happening for it to grow. And all you'll have as a default is the lie of the system, of the self-obsession of one's idea of permaculture or garden or soil science or whatever. And you'll bring that shit with you into everything you do. And even if you try and deny it and go into a state of apathy and think you're somehow miraculous, it'll go away. It doesn't. It will come back and hit you like a baseball bat down the line and knock you down because we created it. We're not free of it. And we haven't cleaned up our act with all those we harmed along the way, which is what we've had to do. I'm still working on it. I've got to work on issues with my mother, that I still haven't dealt with, things that are just, I'm going, how do I get around this, But, like you said, you've got tomatoes growing. If you can just make some of the basic things work where you're not self-obsessed, then you're holding some kind of responsibility. Then you can begin to increase that responsibility. The bowl of your abundance is increasing. Now you can feed a brother and a sister who can come. Give them a cup of water that you have helped make happen, you see? And when we hold the dream more and more and more and more, this is the true picture of Jesus of the 12 disciples at the table, guys. It was all about this, the abundance, co-creating kingdoms together. Not just sitting around being messiahs and saviors, catching nets and killing fish and bringing them all in. This is all occults. It's all crap. It's just who we are is abundance, not scarcity. And
we are life.
We are life, the living. Yeah.
And we love life, so we give thanks for it. I got someone here in the chat commented something very nice, and it caught my attention right away. Red Rose Rockers in the house again. Yeah, dreams are coming true as we speak. This room chat is dreamy. That's a great comment. No, lots of great people. Sofiane, I think, the girl you said that translate in French your work. Yeah, she's there too. A lot of people.
That's a he.
It's a he. It's a he.
Sofiane?
Sofiane is a man.
It's a man? Oh, okay.
He has a penis.
I thought it was a woman. I don't make much difference between men and women. I think it's just another division that we have and we put between ourselves. And I don't know. I see. Like someone was asking me also the other day, Arthur, maybe you can clarify this. Why do you use man and not man and woman? So clarify that.
Because capital M, capital A, capital N is the wholeness of man. There's nothing defined. It's undefined man. It's not a woman or a male. It's not male or female. It's non-stereotype, meaning we're androgynous. A man is androgynous. Androgynous means there is no female and male. Man is man, you know, so it's a wholeness.
Look, it's also just the language we have to use, because I know from when we read the Reading Syndicate, it's translated as man, but from what I read, there's a word in the Russian language that is say man, and it applies to both men and women. And when we were writing stuff, we just didn't want to always have to be writing men and women, you know, it gets really tedious. So we just chose that capital M, capital A, capital N to mean undefined man, whether in the definitions of man, women, everything. And I'm sure there's some people out there who think it's sexist or this, that, and the other, but it's just there was no word in the English language to do that. So that's really why we started. We just had to choose something and use it, and that's what we did. So
well, that's people's stereotyping, bringing their obsession to, oh, he's a sexist. Oh, look at him, he's like this. That's their own shit, and we superimpose it on other people. And that's the self-obsession that's kept us all apart and disjointed. There is no sexist involved in the word man. It's undefined. So
well, that's what we've made it to be, because we had to choose something, you know. So
the English language doesn't have it.
Yeah. So
and we're not a human. We're not a HUE man, because that's a type of a man. It's a shade of a man, but it's not a man.
Yeah, but some say the U means the light also. Some refer as the U as the light, and some as the shadow. What is it exactly?
It's illumination. It's Lucifer's light. The light is the thought of a man. Well, it's the intellect of a man, but it's not a man.
The hue is like, if you think of colors, in English you'd say it's a tone or a shade or a hue, like a certain shade of red, a certain shade of green or blue. So that's what... we looked up all the definitions and stuff of hue, man, and hue is that. So what we're saying is we're not a type of a man, we're not a shade of a man, we're not a
defined man.
Yeah, defined man.
We're not an explained man. We're a non-educated man. We're non-systemized man, right? That's what a man is, right? I mean, a man brought up by nature is undefined. That's a man. We're not a human, because that is a systemized man. It's a man educated into thinking what a man is. That's not a man.
Well, I think you're going to have to come back for, again, Arthur and Fiona, because I haven't even opened my book. And that's the book I had to go through with you, the page and a half that I said the last time that I was going to open with you.
Music. We were going to talk about music, remember?
Yeah. Again, and you too, your papers, I'm sure you didn't even have time to go through. So
well, we did touch on it. We did touch on Rastafarianism.
Not really.
If the
social... we wanted to talk about the music industry. Remember last week you said about the music industry, etc.
Yeah, but listen, briefly, it's institutionalized, it's politicalized, it's culturalized, it's socialized, right? Rastafarianism is the fashion social engineering of a man who becomes Rastafarian. Right? That's no different to a man who becomes a Christian. We're not born Rastafarian. We're not born Christian. We culturalize. We're institutionalized. We're political.
Sure.
We're homogenized, right? As to become, so basically, we're stereotyped to perform the marionette of a Rastafarian. Yeah. We've covered it. We actually have covered it.
That's what I want to talk. We're going to open the next week with that, with the music industry. Me, I'm a lot into reggae, but you can bring any type of music. People on stage and stuff like that. I have a lot of questions, a lot of stuff, and people wearing sunglasses too. We're gonna talk about a lot more stuff. I have other stuff that it's gonna be a delight again to have you on for sure, if you don't mind.
No, we'd love to, because we love talking about the fashion statements of the stereotyping and destroying it for what it is, because we have to if we want to walk away from this.
Yeah, so great. So thank you, everybody that was there in the chat. Again, it was a very dreamy chat. That's what we're working on, the dream of life. So it was a very dreamy chat tonight. Like I said, the vibrations are amazingly high, and I love it. It's a great vibe. Yeah, let's be high for life. So thank you very much, and we'll be back another now. I don't like to involve days and stuff like that because who's to say we're Saturday today or whatever day it is. So it's all Babylonian stuff. We'll be back another now. Me and Arthur coordinate with days and stuff, but it's more in real time. If we don't want to be fake, it's another now. That's it. That's all.
Awesome. Oh, Pat, great to meet you, Hannah, over the internet, mate.
And thanks a lot, Anu, for being part of the panel. And Anu will come back maybe in 2-3 weeks. Then we'll do another one with Arthur with more people. We'll try to, try to involve have a big panel maybe in 2-3 weeks. And we have projects. Nice. We're working on it. We're working on it.
Well, eventually, what's my goal is to try to withdraw back and let more and more people take the space, you know. I just want to, all I'm trying to do is to set the platform of some of this stuff that's in these, well, there's 3 videos we're now going to put up. This, what is this? What are we calling it? The something
self-obsession junkies.
Oh, the self-obsession junkies. Yeah, I forget forgetting it. I love it. I think this is great stuff. We keep that theme going until we think we've done everything we can, and we drag everyone else in. And I want to step back. I really do want to step back and give more of that audience space for others to participate on a platform, not because of me, just simply, do we go where the truth takes us? Do we stand up for the truth, or do we still want the lie and we stand up for the lying? Because that's what you got to do.
I think no one can deny you're a great teacher, you're a great man, you have a great art, and we can all sense it. Me, I sense your big art. Me, that's what I sense from you, because it's fully open and you share a lot, and you know that's what I sense. A great man, and I think it's just a man is just a man for sure.
Imagine all of us working together on getting these kingdoms going, mate, because that's what, there's many of us that got a good heart. We can do it in this life. You just got to take that responsibility on and do it. So these videos is to try and inspire people. We can talk about all the things. We've got to actually be it now and walk the talk of the remedy. That's the remedy, bringing everyone into the group chats.
Be the change, rise and shine, people. We're out.